Hi everyone, I'm Catherine, the artist behind Bigelow Fine Arts. How is your compass progressing? I am loving how mine is coming together. I'm really interested in learning how yours is going. I'm finally beginning on the outer nature part, and my hope is to work the 4 seasons around the outside of the compass. My pencils have been sharpened, and I'm ready to get going. Come along and join me, and let's color this in together. As I mentioned, I'm going for a 4 seasons look on this with a light blue background. I've zoomed in more than last time to hopefully give good views of what I am doing. Everything is so small and hard to see, so I'm hoping I've zoomed in enough to make it visible. I'm going to be working on the pine trees today. I thought the pine trees would be a great place to have the winter section start because pine trees are evergreen and look similar throughout the seasons. Using a regular graphite pencil, I lightly marked off a few places I thought snow might accumulate. With those in place, I began adding in my base layer in the olive green yellowish, covering everything except where I want the snow to be. I'll be working from winter around the circle to fall. Just as a note from future me, after I finished this section, I did go back in and add more snow as I felt the trees seemed to be lacking. So if you are following along, it might be worth adding in more snow clumps than I currently have. Or if you are watching this after the next few have been posted, you can skip ahead to see where I put more snow clumps before coming back and following along. I have a sheet of paper under my hand to prevent smearing any colors onto other parts of the page, as well as to prevent my hand getting dirty. I apologize for covering up parts of the work as I progress. Even though I tried to be good about using a sheet last time, I did end up finding a few light smears on the bottom of the page that I had to erase. So hopefully this time, I will be better about it. This is just a regular sheet of copy or printer paper. There are going to be a lot of palette changes as I work through the perimeter of the compass. Rather than jumping around to stick with the same palette, I'm going to be progressing around the compass and coloring what needs to be colored next. So on to the trees. After the olive green yellowish, I came in with my brown ochre to create a rust color for adding in a highlight of rust. I noticed that my cedar trees get a rust color to them over the winter, so I'm trying to emulate that here. I am putting the rust in areas I want to be light and the chrome oxide green in areas where I feel there might be a shadow. The 2 trees I am working on have little indication of where the boughs are, so I am using the wedges on the side to determine where the bottom of the boughs would be, and therefore where the tops would be. The tops of the bough would be covered by the next bough and would be in shadow, while the bottom of the bough should be more exposed and show the most amount of rust color. It is mostly just doing what seems right and going with it. With my colors roughed in, I wanted to get the snow blocked in to prevent accidentally coloring over it. I used the cold gray 3 to block in the snow and put a touch of light phthalo blue at the bottom to give it a shadow at the base. It looks awfully dark compared to the green, but when I finish the leaf, the gray should stand out against it. At this point, it is a matter of coming in and continuing to layer the colors. I put in some chrome green oxide right under the snow clumps to give the illusion of a deeper shadow, and this will also help the snow stand out against the tree. I made the bough lines angle a little with more rust at the tips. I know what a pine tree looks like, but I've never really paid that close attention to what it really looks like. So I only had a vague idea of what I wanted and kept building up the colors to a point where I felt it looked right. So with one set of trees sorted out, I could then move on to the next two trees. They should work up a little faster now that I have a better idea of color placement and order. I worked them up quite similarly, yet they come out quite different, which is nice since I don't want 4 trees exactly the same. I worked in the olive green yellowish layer for a base before coming in with the pine green and working out how I want the boughs to look. On the left tree, I made the boughs almost spiral around the tree, which does seem rather odd now, but at the time I wasn't sure there would be a better way to figure it out. The rightmost tree, I worked the boughs back and forth from one tip to the next with the chrome oxide green, and that seemed a little more natural. I used the brown ochre to better define where the rusty points would fall, and the pine green to deepen the shadows. I kept coming in and adding more layers to refine the shadows and the highlights. I then used the olive green yellowish to blend things together more. All these trees are worked up with the exact same colors, just in slightly different ways, making them look so different from each other. This is why I really want to see how you are progressing on your coloring, since even if we are using the same colors, each piece will end up being our own unique art. And if you are using different colors, I'm all the more curious to see how they are turning out. I also worked up the snow clumps. I started with the cold gray 3 before adding a little bit of a highlight of blue underneath. Under the trees, I made the grass the same rust color, the brown ochre, to show winter grass. But away from the trees, I transitioned the grass to more of a bright green, using the light green to show fresh spring grass. I also used the same light green on the edge of the rightmost tree to show it beginning to transition into spring. It is pretty subtle, but it's there. This is a good stopping point here. I'll be working on some of the spring section tomorrow, along with coming back and hitting up the trunks that I forgot to do this time. I hope you've been following along. Let me know below. I'd love to know how your compass is coming along. I have my social media links below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. I've been using Patreon as a blog post section, so it's free to go check it out. If you have any questions or page requests, please leave them below or reach out to me on social media. I put in a list of chapter breaks in the show notes, as well as a list of equipment I like to use. If you use any of the affiliate links, it really helps me out without costing you a thing. I want to thank you all for coming along and joining in with me on this coloring journey. I appreciate all my subscribers and look forward to more of you joining in and coloring along with me. That will only happen if you like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, happy coloring!